What's up, guys? Welcome back to Inside the 20. This week we're going to be recapping sports a little bit around the sports world. There's a couple of things going on in various sports, various championships and stuff, and then we're going to be answering some questions you guys had on Instagram. So let's get right into it. So first, I'm going to start with basketball. We're going to review the playoff landscape a little bit first. So first of all, we have the Hawks and Bucks. There's only been 2 games so far in the Eastern Conference Finals. In the first one, the Hawks took a slim lead late in the fourth quarter. Trae Young was crazy at 48 points. It's his career high, not just in the playoffs but in general. And Milwaukee just couldn't stand the consistent shooting. But then the next game last night, the Hawks got blown out by the Bucks. I believe it was a 34-5 point game. So it's just, like I said on Instagram, and my predictions for this Eastern Conference Finals series is the Hawks are too inconsistent with their shooting. Bogdanovich is too inconsistent with the shooting to be a reliable option for Trae Young, and when Trae Young's off, the entire team's off. So I think the Bucks win this series in 5 or 6 games just because the Hawks cannot stay consistent with their shooting, and the Bucks defense is just too good for them to have any way of winning if they're not consistently shooting. So it's the same thing that happened with the Bucks and Nets. It's just if they're not consistent, the Bucks are too good to let a win slide. So, and then on the flip side, the Western Conference Finals, a little bit interesting last week. With the Suns taking 2 games, Booker went crazy in the first game with his first triple-double of his career. Second game wasn't much to talk about other than the fact that, DeAndre Ayton had the last second alley-oop, which was, that's phenomenal. That was the most phenomenal play I think I've ever seen in basketball. And then the next game was the Clippers just handily taking in the second half. Booker and Paul were both, off. But this doesn't worry me about the series. It doesn't worry me about the future. I still think the Suns will win in 6. Just because their team is just so, they just work together so well. I don't really see them having any flaws other than, occasionally having the inconsistencies from Booker and Paul. They just need to get back on track with Chris Paul being back. So, and on the coaching standpoint of things, a couple of teams hired some new coaches. So, first of all, the Indiana Pacers hired Rick Carlisle, the ex-Mavs coach, to be their new coach, which I think was actually a great move by them. It could possibly, the Pacers have a decent roster, and so I think adding a coach is something they needed for sure. It's something they needed to kind of get themselves a boost. And I think if they do, they're definitely a playoff team with Rick Carlisle as coach. So I think that was a great move. And then next was the Mavs hiring Jason Kidd to be their next head coach, and Nico Harrison, the Nike endorsement executive, to be their general manager. So great moves by them. Jason Kidd, doesn't have a great track record as coach, but I think that him and Luka can work well together just because they have similar play styles as, kind of distributors. So I think that could work out. And then the Trailblazers hired Chauncey Billups to be their new head coach last night, which I also think was a good hire, but will they keep Dame Lillard happy is the question. So we'll have to see in the future if they're keeping Dame Lillard happy. And so with that, I'll pass it on to you. Talk about the men's NCAA baseball. Yeah. That's what you got up there. So
yeah. So NC State actually, unfortunate, half of their team ended up getting COVID or going under COVID protocol. And so they were throwing out a bunch of freshmen to play Vanderbilt, which Vanderbilt's a great team, don't get me wrong. But they still put up a good fight, and it was 3-1. But I just think with NC State, if they were all healthy, not under COVID protocol, game would have been maybe in favor of NC State, but didn't end up happening. And then Texas beat Mississippi State, which I kind of saw that coming. Texas has a great team. But what really shocked me as I was looking 5 minutes ago is the NC State Vanderbilt game got canceled. So I guess NC State's not comfortable throwing out their freshmen, so Vanderbilt just is automatically on to the next round.
Interesting. So was this a double elimination?
Yeah.
Also? So they were going to play 2 games. So
yeah.
Texas is playing Mississippi State again, correct, today?
At 6 o'clock.
Interesting. So, and then the winner of these goes on to play each other, right, for the World Series.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, and what else? Basketball. You talked about that. Guess I can go into the European Cup, which starts today. All right, so kind of like the biggest tournament of the year for most of these countries besides the World Cup. But Wales plays, or I'll just go over the games that are happening today, which there's 2 of them, and then the rest of them are throughout the rest of the week, and then I'll recap those in the next episode. But Wales plays Denmark today, and I think Denmark's going to come out with this game. Wales is just like not consistent as a team, and Denmark has just been gelling really well together. And their last game was a draw, but I think they'll come back from that just even stronger and end up winning this. And then Italy versus Austria. I think Italy will win this. They've won their last 5 games, and I don't think it's going to stop. And then the rest of the week, the rest of the teams are playing. My game to watch out of all of these would have to be England versus Germany on Tuesday, which is going to be insane to watch. I think it'll be a great game, and it could end up coming down to extra time, penalty kicks. We'll see. So, yeah. And do you want to go over the NHL Stanley Cup?
Hockey. So, hockey landscape's been pretty interesting here as of late. The Lightning and Islanders went to Game 7 after a crazy OT win by the Islanders. And the Lightning took it 1-0. So the Lightning will be returning to the Stanley Cup this year once again. Now, on the other side of things, the Montreal Canadiens, the 8 seed, beat I think it was the 2 or the 1, maybe the 1.
Yeah, I think
The Vegas Golden Knights. They beat them in 6 games. Wild. That is hockey for you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. That is hockey for you. That is hockey for you. So the Stanley Cup will be consisting of the Lightning and the Canadiens. So tune in for that for sure. That'll be interesting. Hopefully the Canadiens can win that. I'm still salty about the Lightning beating us last year. So please, Canadiens, win that. Please show them up.
It'd be pretty crazy if the Canadiens end up winning because their under 500 record is not great, but they made it.
They did make it. Kind of like the Stars last year.
Yeah. Not really much else to go over in sports. Been kind of
That's about it for the sports world. Now we'll move on to you guys and your questions. I know we got a few questions on Instagram, and we'll kind of come up with our own questions too, to kind of tell you guys more about us and get you guys more involved and tell you how we started this podcast and why we started this podcast. So, Ryan, you want to start with the first question?
Yeah. So the first question is, who do you think is on the incline, like NFL wise, and then who do you think is going to be on the decline?
So I'll name 3 teams on each, and you name 3 teams on each. So I'll go ahead and start. So 3 teams on the incline for me. First of all, we've got the Rams. I think the Rams are definitely on the incline this year for sure, especially adding Matt Stafford. And they were already a playoff team, and they have a playoff roster. They lost a couple of pieces here and there, but they still have a playoff roster, and they finally got themselves the quarterback they wanted. So the Rams are definitely on the incline first. Second, I would say, I'm going to think about this one for a second. The Chargers on the incline. I would say the Chargers are most definitely on the incline. That is one team that I would say is going to go from a sub-500 record last year to a playoff record this year. I definitely think the Chargers, even in their tough division, I think that the Chargers are going to pull out a wild card spot this year with 12-5, maybe even 13-4 record. I think that they've got a great team going on down there. They've got a lot of players coming off injury, Derwin James to name the most significant one, and they've built an O-line this offseason. So I'm really excited to see Justin Herbert and that team click together and hopefully make the playoffs. Yeah. And then my third team, I'm doing this on the fly just to let you guys know, so it might take me a second to think about this stuff. Third team on the incline.
Yeah,
this is a really good question, actually. Because I got my big 2 right here. Like, these are teams that I see making the biggest jump this season. So the Rams really are not. They're not necessarily like going from bad to good. They're going from like good to even better. So with that, I'm going to say the 49ers because they got themselves a new quarterback. They have Jimmy G to fill in until that quarterback, Trey Lance, can eventually step in. And they've got a lot of players coming off injury on the defense that can come in and step in and be a factor, namely Nick Bosa. So I see them making the biggest jump from last season to this season. So that's my third team. My three teams that are on the decline. First of all, I've got the Seahawks. Unfortunately, the Seahawks, in my opinion, are on the decline. Their defense isn't strong enough, and they didn't make any changes to it in the offseason. And their offensive line isn't strong enough, and they didn't make any changes to it in the offseason. I know Russell Wilson is, he doesn't really need to have a stout offensive line to make plays, but I really think that is a factor that's going to kick in. I'm not saying they're not going to be a playoff team. I think they're just this is the beginning of a decline that might put them out of the playoffs in the next few years, especially once Russell Wilson decides to leave the team. Second team I see on the decline. It's a tough question.
Yeah. You're giving me time to think about mine.
I am giving you time to think about yours. I'm not going to say the Steelers because they're not on the decline. They're kind of in the middle, in my opinion. Kind of in the middle of on an incline and a decline. So, not going to say the Steelers. I know most of you probably would. But, tough question. I would say the Raiders are on the decline. I think they're making the biggest backwards jump because they're just adding useless players, I would say. The Kenyon Drake signing was like, I was like, what? They had so many other options out there to sign. So many big name defensive players, and they signed Kenyon Drake to a big deal. So, too many questions surrounding their offseason, too many questions surrounding their roster. They had a decent draft, but they reached in the first round. I just see them declining quite a bit. They were already an 8-8 team. I see them being a 5-12, 4-13 team. I just don't see them being. Like I said, I have too many questions about their roster, and I have too many questions about John Gruden. So, that's my second team on the decline. My third team on the decline. Third team on the decline. Tough question.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think I can name three on the decline. Well, maybe, but let's see. Oh, wait, I have mine.
You have yours?
Yeah.
I have a team I'm thinking of, but I don't want to say it because it might stir up some controversy.
Might as well say it. Spit it out.
Well, now I've got two, so give me a second.
Nah, I gotta hear the one that's gonna cause some controversy.
Here's the one that's not going to cause some controversy. The Falcons. I think the Falcons are on the decline. Matty Ice is getting older. He's probably on the way out in the next few years. Julio Jones is gone. The defense. The defense. I just have too many questions. They didn't have a great record last season. It's going to be worse this season. Now, my controversial answer that Saints.
That's what I was gonna say. So. Yeah.
But I won't explain that. I'll let you explain that. So you tell me your three teams on the incline and three teams on the decline.
All right. My three teams on the incline. This is I guess you could say somewhat biased, but I mean, you can't argue that the Bears have gotten better at quarterback.
Fair.
They've filled in their offensive line. They took a first-round talent in the second round in Tevin Jenkins.
Yep.
They're building their defense back up. We got a steal in the 6th round with Thomas Graham Jr., who is giving me kind of Kyle Fuller vibes, but I guess
that would be great.
Yeah, we'll see. And my second team, shout out to all the Cowboys fans, because I mean, the Cowboys fans get hate for saying it's their year every year, but they have a roster that can contend every year.
Offensively, at least.
They just haven't had the healthy offense that they need.
They have, I mean, when healthy, they have a top 5 offense in the league, if not top 3.
And then my third and final team would have to be the Chargers because,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
half of their losses last season were by one score or less.
13-3 before halftime.
Yeah. Which is just insane.
It's wild.
Yeah.
They beat the Chiefs too.
Yeah.
By a lot. With that Patrick Mahomes. It was like, I think the only one missing was Patrick Mahomes, and they beat him by like, it was a wide margin.
And then my 3 teams on the decline. I'm gonna have to say the Steelers because they have an aging quarterback.
Fair enough.
I mean, compared to this season, their next season is not going to be. I mean, I still think they have a chance to make the playoffs. I just don't think they'll be as high as they were last season. And then, the Seahawks as my second team because aging quarterback, even though Russell Wilson is still a stud and I would take him every year in fantasy until he retired, but
So would I.
he's aging, and then I know he says that he's good with the Seahawks, like him and
There's no.
he says there's no bad blood, but
there's no certainty.
yeah. There's no way to tell, especially in the NFL where things can be hidden. And like I said, my last and final team has to be the Saints because Drew Brees is gone, and we've seen Jameis Winston play at a substandard level with the Buccaneers, and I just feel like if he plays at that level, the Saints are a 7-10 team, maybe 8-9. But if he plays at a good level, I could see them staying at the record they had last season. But I don't see them going over that record. So those are my top 3 on the incline and top 3 on the decline.
Let us know what you guys think about that.
Yeah.
If you have any teams that you think are on the incline or think are on the decline. So, I know Dolphins is one that I probably could have mentioned for incline or even decline. I've seen both. I know that Steelers are one I could have mentioned for incline or decline, but personally, I think that other than the quarterback standpoint, the Steelers are in a pretty good place. A lot of young talent, so that's my opinion, and that's why I didn't put them for either. So, I think they're kind of in the middle. They have some things that are on the decline, like quarterback, but they have some things that are on the incline, like their young skill players, like Najee Harris and the young trio of receivers. So, and now a young offensive line that we'll see. Could be awful, but it could be great. We'll just have to see. We have no idea. They're rookies, so I think our allow me to go on a little bit of a run here. Our left guard, Kevin Dotson. He's not a rookie; he's a second year, but he did show great talent last year. We signed Trey Turner to right guard. Younger, had some injury issues, but is back now and says he's healthier than ever. Believe right tackle is Zach Banner, younger talent from USC, undrafted, but he's been good. He just had an ACL tear last season. He's humongous. Go look it up. He's crazy. He's huge. Left tackle, I believe, is either I'm not gonna say his name because I always mess it up. Okorafor, or Dan Brown from the Texas A&M Aggies. So and he's a rookie. And then Kendrick Green in center. So we've got a lot of young talent that you guys should watch the Steelers this season to see if the young talent plays out, especially Najee Harris. That'll be fun to watch.
I have a question before we go on to the next one that I think could be a pretty interesting question. I was just thinking about this, just randomly came into my head, but if you could add one rule to the NFL or take away one rule, what would it be?
Add one rule or take away one rule? So one of each or just...
You can do one of each or just one or the other.
So one rule... Ooh, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Give me a second. You have your answer?
I don't. I just kind of thought of it and then... yeah. It's kind of a...
It's a difficult question.
It's an interesting question, though. Let's see.
I think as controversial as this is, I think I'd take away the tuck rule. It makes it more interesting. You know the tuck rule?
Yeah.
Or intentional grounding. I hate that.
Yeah.
Although, that would cause a lot of... Maybe not intentional grounding, but the tuck rule, I would say... if it's like not in the throwing motion, if it doesn't pass 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, it's a fumble. I think that would make the game more interesting, to be honest. Or a rule that I thought, oh my god, that's a tough question. A rule that I thought they should take away is a tuck rule. A rule that they should add. I don't think I really have a rule. I think they have a lot of good rules.
I'm trying to think.
I don't think I have a rule that they should add. I think that's just the one I think they should take away as a tuck rule to make it more interesting. Because it allows for a lot of interpretation. Although most rules do, but I think that's the one that it could go either way every time. So why not just make it a fumble every time?
Yeah.
It's to make it more interesting, to see if they can get it back, and
I don't honestly have one. It's going to take me some time to think. So.
Yeah. You should move on to the next
Yeah,
question.
let's just move on. Do you want to go this one or?
Not that one.
All right. So the next question is, would y'all ever create your own idea of the NFL, and if so, which team would be in each division?
So, I would have it to where I've had two ideas for this. So one idea is it's geographic, which it kind of is already. But I would have it completely geographic. There's a lot of teams that are kind of, not really geographic, that are kind of because of expansion and things of the sort. But you can make it to where it's mostly geographic. So that would be pretty cool. That's the boring answer. The fun answer is I would make it to where all the good teams are in their own divisions and all the bad teams are in their divisions. So even the bad teams who win their division make playoffs. And the good teams, some of the good teams don't make playoffs. I feel like that would make the playoff landscape and just football in general more interesting. Is if I know that's kind of how it is already. There's some divisions that are better than others, but it would be cool if all of the good teams were in all the good teams were in their own divisions, and then all the bad teams were in their own divisions. And so it would just be the bad teams battling it out, and then the good teams. So it wouldn't just be blowouts every other week, right? We would see good games every week consistently. So I think that would be pretty cool, but they'll never do that. So they won't listen to me anyways. But they would never do that anyway. That would be they would lose so much money off that, so they wouldn't do that. So but I think that would be really cool to see. Yeah, what do you think?
I would agree on the geographic, but I mean, it's kind of already is geographic.
It already is for the most part, but it's not a perfectly geographic.
Yeah. And then I would love to see the Bears and the Steelers in the same division, just because that's 2 times a year where they play each other. That'll be yeah.
They play each other this year, I think so.
Yeah. Monday Night Football.
Monday night
in September.
You researched it.
Yeah.
It's week 3.
No, it's I think it's in November.
Oh, so it's week 8.
Something like that. And do you want to answer the top question?
Sure. What's the top question?
The question is, why did y'all start a podcast?
Why did we start a podcast? Well, once upon a time in January. Well, no, it goes past January. Okay,
yeah.
So last year, one day I asked Ryan, I was like, yo, Ryan, can I come over and watch the game today? He's like, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. Because he has NFL Game Pass or whatever. So I went over there. We watched the game. We watched a couple of games probably.
Yeah.
And then, did that for a few weeks. I went over there every weekend and we watched football. And then one day Ryan was like, hey, listen to this podcast. I really like this podcast. So I started listening to the podcast and I was like, we were both just at the same time, we were like, dude, we should start a podcast. We both love football, love sports, why not just start a podcast? We can do it. And I was like, I've been thinking about sports journalism and broadcasting anyways as my, as a pursuit in my career. So I was like, why not start one and just get a head start on practice and
experience,
stuff like that. So that's why we started a podcast, and here we are.
Yeah. Trying to be more consistent now.
We're trying to be more consistent a little bit. It was tough there for a few weeks just because school got really hectic.
Yeah.
For me especially, I was graduating, so it got really hectic. I'm sure it got hectic for Ryan too, with finals and everything. It was hard to put out videos, but we're back and better. We're back and better than ever. So glad to be back.
Yeah. And I think that's all of the questions that we found suitable to answer in a timely manner. So.
Yep. So, we do have one more. We had one more question, I believe. It was what are our power rankings? We'll have our power rankings out soon. We're gonna have a like preseason power rankings, and then like a preseason power rankings like next month or somewhere around there. Whenever we have time to kind of talk that out together, and then we'll have a like preseason power rankings like right before the season starts. And so we'll have two, and you kind of be able to compare. But we won't talk about that today just because it'll probably take quite a while, and we don't have that mapped out quite yet. So anyway, thank you guys for listening this week. We really appreciate it, and we hope you listen in next week. Thank you for listening. See ya.